You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Basic stats.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 137 on NPR. Just kidding. Bullshit. We're not on NPR. We are East Central Indiana's favorite podcast, though. This is episode number 137. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. I'm joined today by intern Mason Rottinghaus.
Have I not grown out of that title yet?
You're still at Purdue. I don't think we have to pay you until you get out of school.
I've got 4 more years.
Yeah, you're going to be an intern for a very long time.
It's going to suck.
Until it's not a very special episode of you showing up in the middle of the year. You're still going to be intern Mason. We're going to have my forever and always co-host, Dakota Davis.
Today's episode features Zach Burcham, the old neighbor of the old studio. We're going to be talking to him about a whole bunch of different things. So first, we're going to cover all of the municipal elections that happened in Henry County on Tuesday, covering the Newcastle City Council race, the elections that happened in Knightstown and Kennard. And then maybe we'll say something about Middletown. I don't know yet. I don't
know if results are in yet.
They're in. But the real reason we asked Zach to come on is he is also a super fan of INDYCAR and the Indy 500. And we are going to be talking about the big news that Roger Penske has bought the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then we are going to be talking about how Mason is a racist. So make sure you stick around to the end to hear what that's all about.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh. Hopefully you always learn something new. I'm very impressed that intern Mason has made it, and he dressed in his black and yellow, and
just wore a shirt.
He wore his Jeremiah Morrell's button. So yeah, that's impressive.
He's a year late.
About that.
Year late. I honestly just found it. I found it on the table.
He was laying around here.
There's about 6 of them back there.
Yeah, there's they don't say anything. They're not. They just have the libertarian chicken on a stick and my name. So they're good for anything. You never know. There's always opportunities for those.
All right. Before we get into it, we need to thank the people who help support this show on Patreon. Those people have signed up at patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. Zach is one of those folks, and he's in our studio tonight.
Heck yeah, he is. He bought his way on. No, actually, his expertise is all we needed.
Pay to play.
Quid pro quo, baby. He's been investigating people for us, so
I held the money back until they told me they were going to let me on, and I released it.
If you donate at a super premium level, then we promise to let everyone who listens to the show know that you are a tremendous person. Those people are Craig DaCosta from all the way in Hawaii, Jonathan Phillips, our favorite car dealer in the entire world, and, of course, Christy Avery, the libertarian matriarch up in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Matriarch. You make her sound like she's near death.
No, she's like the matriarch of mob families, the woman who's secretly in charge. Haven't you ever seen The Godfather? We also have some T-Chip stores if you don't want to support the show monthly. You can find those at tchip.com/BHOL1, 2, or 3.
I wore my black today, but I didn't wear my BHOL shirt on account of the subject matter at hand. And Zach also dressed appropriately.
That's true. Yeah. Zach, have you bought a T-shirt yet?
Not yet.
You don't have to because you support us monthly.
But maybe he wants it. They make those hoodies are real good camping gear for those late fall camping trips.
I was going to buy the one that says like Jeremiah, Dakota, Chase, and I forget the last one.
Cade.
Cade. I didn't know if Cade was on it or not. But then I was like, it doesn't say intern Mason. And so I was like,
and the font is wrong. I gave him the one from Adam Sandler and the Dan Patrick Show where it's Chase, Pauly, Seaton, and McLovin, and he totally screwed it up. He got the case wrong. So it's I want it badly. Yeah, if you watch the Adam Sandler special, you can see what it's supposed to look like, and then there's what Dakota made.
Yep.
All right. So, top of the show, we're going to talk Newcastle City Council. We've been covering this. You guys have met a number of the candidates over the last couple of weeks. Mike Guffey won. He was on last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess. It was 2 weeks ago. Mike Guffey was on.
Mike Guffey was running
He
against...
got the Boss Hog bump.
Yeah, he was running against Butch Ryan in Ward number 1 in the city of Newcastle.
He won 58-42.
It's true. A Republican winning against a Democrat for a city council seat.
The
that was a big deal.
second Republican elected to the city council. Newcastle has had one Democrat mayor since the 1950s.
I mean, Republican?
I'm sorry, one Republican mayor since the 1950s. Been Democrats ever since. It's an old UAW town, longtime UAW town, so a lot of that's still here. So that was an impressive win. Obviously, everybody on this show has significant interest in our boy producer Chris Guffey. Came extremely close.
I wouldn't say extremely.
14 votes go the other way, and that's pretty close by anybody's standards.
9%. I needed 9%.
We are very proud of producer Chris. He did a great job. If you guys want a little more detailed analysis, I encourage you to join the Patreon at any level, and we'll get you in the Facebook group. You can watch the video, and you can certainly hear the audio that will be in there. I'm getting chastised right now in the private chat because my wife says I should have fed the dog because I was home, and he got in the trash. So that's on me.
Chris, I had a typo in the show notes you told me during the Patreon portion. You had 42% in your race.
Yeah, if we round up, which we will here, I had 41.51% of the vote. So you round up to 42. That's what the news is doing, so that's what I'm doing.
You're brand new to the race. This is your first time running. You're running it against a guy with a very established name ID who is a Democrat in this UAW town, and you still pull out 42%. That's a incredible mark in my book. I think you did a great job. But Jerry Walden did win the race for City Council Ward 3 in Newcastle, Indiana. And Jeff Hancock beat Libertarian Lisa Catron for Ward 2 in the city of Newcastle.
Couple other, you guys tuned into this show and you know our affinity for the Libertarian Party. There were 5 wins in Indiana this year. They did win, or the party did win a city council race in Tipton, along with 2 races in Wayne County and 2 in other areas as well. So the LP did very well, and Andy Cook, the mayor of Westfield,
he had a fight.
He won, but man, it was 60-40. Don Rainwater absolutely just punched 5 levels above the Libertarian weight class in a mayor's race. 60-40, very impressive over there.
He came in hard. The people over there are looking for someone who's not going to just tax them more and spend their money into oblivion, and that was very apparent in his race.
So big progress for the Libertarian Party this year. I know some years we've covered the LP candidates, and it's not been as much big news. But man, 5 wins in Indiana is impressive. I know 3 mayors were elected just over the border in Ohio, which is a big deal for the Libertarian Party. So lots and lots of progress made. I know our national chair is watching right now. Nick Sarwark's in the chat watching and checking it out. Big success there. And then in one of the biggest news stories in the country, just south of us, I spent my day in Kentucky. You guys that are in the Patreon group, you saw my public apology for not having show notes out at a reasonable time. I spent the day in Louisville doing my day job and talking to people, and everybody wanted to talk about Matt Bevin losing, the Republican losing to the Democrat Andy Beshear, and that was a 5,000 vote margin in the entire state of Kentucky. The Libertarian candidate had 22,000 votes, I believe, and the LP talked about how delicious the tears of the Republicans were. So that theme continued.
That was a
little salty.
An earlier quote from Nick Sarwark, who said, "Your tears are delicious, and your parties will die."
So. And there was some dialogue. I got in a little dialogue with Nick and I think one of the lead, I don't know if it's the chairman or one of the leads of the Kentucky Libertarian Party this week, saying, well, you know, the LP is a political party and they exist. You shouldn't expect them to not run candidates. But the Libertarian Party statement in that race talked about, maybe if you guys paid a little bit more attention to criminal justice reform and responsible spending and cannabis reform, some of that stuff wouldn't have been a problem, and we wouldn't run a candidate. And I said, well, in what world wouldn't you run a candidate? And said, well, look, we're never going to run a candidate. We're never going to run a candidate against Thomas Massey. That's reasonable. One of my favorite congressmen. So there's some lessons to be learned. You might have won. Also, Bevin appears. I talked to everybody in Louisville today, literally to a man. Everybody I talked to about Matt Bevin, and they said, yeah, he's so unlikable. It's not even funny. So I don't know if it's a canary in the coal mine for Trump or not. Every statewide Republican won in Kentucky except for Matt Bevin, which may tell you that a whole lot of angry teachers and a bad attitude will get you in trouble.
Well, something else you have to remember is that also in Virginia, that Virginia turned blue as well, but Trump didn't bring the full weight of Trump down in Kentucky or Virginia. So you have to remember that Trump didn't make any appearances or anything like that.
He did appear with Bevin at the last. Yeah, his administration was there in the last week.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so maybe
they knew that
maybe
they were screwed.
Maybe they need to. Maybe that's why it was so close. Then is maybe he was going to get railroaded and just
he got a bump towards the end.
Yeah, by the Trump administration.
Also, Knightstown had their town council election. They had a at-large race going on right now, and they also
it's a board with 3 at-large seats. There were 4 people running.
Correct, and they didn't cancel their election. So if you read the Courier Times, it'll tell you that people won clerk treasurer. We're not going to get into that because it was uncontested. But Chuck Rhodes, Cheryl Hammer, Mitchell Rowland won the town council at large seats in Knightstown, Indiana. Mitchell Rowland beat Roger Hammer by 2 votes in that race. It was 102 to 104.
I will say Roger was one of the incumbents. He was the only one that showed up at the Chamber Forum last week.
Yep.
Any incumbent probably had some issues with the way that the public relations side was handled, with the police chief being suspended with pay. So any of the incumbents probably had a bit of an uphill battle. There was, looking at that from the outside, I don't have specific information, but if you watch the PR battle and the way that was handled and the town council being unable to comment or being unwilling to comment publicly, any of the incumbents that were involved with that had a bit of an ankle weight.
I just thought it was
the public side.
Extremely notable to say that it was 2 votes, or if he had swung 3 votes, he would have won. Chris Guffey, if he would have swung 14 votes, then he would have won. That is, if you had added 14 votes, you would have won, we should say.
Changed 14 votes.
Yeah, I had to
add about 30, but
I had to change
if you had changed 14.
But you hear all the time people say that they don't vote because it doesn't really matter. These votes these elections prove your vote really does matter, and you need to make an effort to get out there.
150 people voted for a seat that controls millions of dollars in budget. 159 people voted in a race that controls the 2 Comma Club.
Yep.
And then
if you guys are Silicon Valley folks, the 3 Comma Club. Well, if you're a city councilman, you're in the 2 Comma Club. You control a more than $1 million budget.
And then Kennard had their clerk treasurer. That was a contested race over there, and Miss Susan Shelton won that race, and she is the new clerk treasurer elect in the town of Kennard in Indiana. And there's all kinds of interesting things that are going on in Middletown. We talked about it a little bit last week, where they were holding their own election, and we've been trying to figure out what's been going on with that basically since Tuesday, having discussions with citizens of Middletown, trying to trying to just make sure that everything they did was perfectly kosher and it was all going to be okay, and they didn't do anything that wasn't by the book with their election, essentially, because they obviously didn't have a huge election turnout for this race either. So it was It's one of those things where it wasn't publicized very much. Nobody really knew that Middletown was having an election. And
I don't know how you
That's the
don't
thing.
have people notice if there's an election. Don't you see the yard signs?
Well,
unless everybody's selling their house in Middletown, surely to God, some of those people put yard signs out in their yard, and you're like, hey, you know what? I know what election day normally is, and I see the yard sign, so maybe I ought to try to find a place to vote.
Well,
I drive
not only
through
that.
Middletown often, and there were a couple of yard signs that I remember seeing, but it wasn't like it was here.
That's true.
So-
But there was also articles in our media partner, the Courier Times. There's also articles in the Middletown News. So, and this is another thing, like as we discussed in the Patreon side about the voters not knowing how do you educate them and get them to actually know who's on the ballot and that they actually have a vote. And on top of that, I mean, we talked
about that election on our show last week. So look, if you didn't listen to Boss Hog, I can't be held responsible for your inaction.
Well, and the thing is the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him to drink. I mean,
You could at least get curious if you're watching TV or listening to the radio. You know that Indianapolis has a mayor's race.
You might be.
'Cause that was all over media, and you might
Now,
think, hey,
in their defense,
maybe
though,
there's some local stuff going on.
if you jump on Indiana voters and you were a Middletown resident, because I saw that they had published in the Courier Times the bios for the candidates that were running in Middletown because they answered the candidate surveys. I jumped on Indiana voters and I tried to pull a Fall Creek Township ballot, and I looked at every single precinct inside and outside of the Shenandoah School District, and there was nothing on Indiana voters listed.
That's true.
So if you were a voter that cared, I was a guy that was trying to cover as a media partner, a media member in this silly little role that we have on Boss Hog. I tried to do the research. I went to indianavoters.com, and because the town election board instead of the county election board handled that, it did not make the state website. So if you were a concerned citizen, if you were an interested citizen and you checked the place where you always check, it wasn't listed. So you think, okay, well, maybe it's like Newcastle and they canceled the election because there were 3 spots and 3 people ran. I can see how that happens. I do understand that. But if you saw the signs out, that makes sense. And then we heard from Paul Ward, who's been in my ear this week. Paul's like, hey, look, I showed up at the church I normally vote at, and there was nothing happening. So I didn't vote there. Turns out the town, if you'd gone to the town website, they listed that there were 4 candidates and they voted at the town hall. To the letter of the law and to the rules that are required, the state of Indiana allows towns to have elections, the towns to have election boards. They probably advertised once in the paper as is required. I'm guessing they didn't go above and beyond and really push the issue hard. But they did hold an election and they reported the results and people voted. Some people knew. Is it the way I would have handled it? No. Is it? I also question
and something else
some of the candidates. Did the candidates go door to door and were people riddled with literature? Did these guys all get to people's doors? I don't. Zach, you didn't have an election in where you lived. Chris, I don't know if you saw other people's materials at your house.
No,
your race and Walden's.
Yeah, I saw nothing. The only thing that I saw was I saw mine, and then I saw in Ward 1 where my street and Ward 3 and Ward 1 kind of split the road. I did see Ward 1 candidates out walking, actually. We bumped into him. So I would say for those people in Middletown that are concerned.
You saw your own literature at your door?
No, I didn't see my literature.
His people left things in his neighborhood.
It's true.
Kevin Potter and I walked to your neighborhood.
Yep.
I thought I found your house, but I left a little thing out front. But
there were no signs around Newcastle, like for me running around town to know that there was
something going on, right?
Even I didn't have a race in my area, but like Mr. Koger that was on here last week, I think he's my council. He had a sign for one of his fellow council people in his front yard. I think it was his yard. So you saw signs around because even if you don't have a race in your area, you might, if you have a friend or family member, you throw a sign in your front yard sometimes.
I put almost 45 to 50 signs out.
And I know my wife works at the Y, go down to the Y, and there was one of your signs was right there at the top of New York.
Yep.
Going down to the Y. So
I mean,
there was definitely information that there was an election going on, for most people. What I would challenge people to do that are really concerned and that are upset, Middletown has a town council and they would have appointed a town election board.
Which nobody knows who's on the election board.
That town election board should legally have minutes. They should have published dates and times of when they meet. All of that information should be available. People should be able to pull that and see who's on the board, see what actions they've taken, ask for information on the election, and find out when they're meeting next. And if people are not happy with the way it went down, go to that board. Tell them. Everybody in this room, with the exception of probably Mason, has shown up at some public meetings in the past. You know how it can be done. Just regular people can show up and ask questions and make it happen.
It's true.
I will say some breaking news. I don't know if you guys knew, but the Calpine, the Wind.
The Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yes, a 4-0 shut them down.
Is Wind dead?
Wind is dead. Wind is dead. You're hearing it live right here at the Boss Hog of Liberty.
I heard that like a year ago and nobody believed it. So why should I believe you now?
Because I'm not you.
All right. That's election coverage for now. Let's talk about what's really, really important, Zach.
I'm going to push my mic away.
Mason, this affects you.
Mason.
You've been a guest.
Let's go to
B-Dubs.
We out.
You guys ready?
Later. Yeah, we're out. Let's go to B-Dubs.
Dakota's been doodling for 5 minutes. Like he's out.
We knew it was coming.
All right, Dakota, walk us through this.
Winter is coming.
What do you know?
I know that one old guy bought a circle of asphalt from another old guy.
Hold on. The best kept circle of asphalt in all of Indiana.
It's part brick. I know that.
There's some
No,
brick
there's
under
brick
there.
underneath it. Come on, even I
There's
know
a
that, Mason.
there's like a little like the
Oh, yeah.
bricks.
Well, the finish.
The brickyard.
Finish line.
There's,
yeah.
a, there's a yard
Over-
of bricks.
I know
Over
they
a
drink milk
1,000
there, right?
Over 1,000 acres of prime real estate in Indianapolis.
I heard the national anthem and
The flyby.
Everybody missed that. Then I was
You
gone.
got to see the coolest flyby I think that it's ever been done.
You couldn't
at a
sleep during it
sporting
because I
event.
was pretty close.
Sure was. And then we walked down about 2 laps after the race started, and me and Mason are asleep in the Tahoe.
And it was nice. It was like 50 laps. I didn't want to feel that bad. We got about through 50 and walked to the Tahoe.
You had prime turn 4 seats.
I'm not going to lie, they were nice seats, but you could see right down the main strip, everything happening. And then I was just like, dozing. Then Sarah,
Not Sarah, Libby.
Libby. She'd go, did you see that? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, race car. Saw it. Yeah. It was
hilarious.
it was one of the red ones, right?
I did see
It
the
said
flyby on
had
it.
a
It said
number on
Target
the
Team
internet.
Penske.
And that's one thing that seemed amazing at the race.
Flybys are always
Yeah.
good, and they usually come over my head where my seats are. That flyover was amazing.
Straight up in the air.
They're gonna have a hard time topping that one in the future.
Okay, so that was from race day. Roger Penske did a lot more than just buy the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He bought the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He bought the Indianapolis 500. He bought Indianapolis, or the what's the name of the television partner?
IMS Productions.
IMS Productions, and he purchased the entire NTT INDYCAR series. So every bit of it is now controlled by Penske Entertainment, which is owned by Penske Corp, which is privately held by the captain, Roger Penske. How much money do you think he paid for that, Dakota?
I don't know. I read that it was an undisclosed amount. They weren't going to give out the number.
We'll never find out.
You'll never know.
Too much.
Somebody
Do
said
we
it will
think-
eventually come out, but they don't. Nobody
we
knows
think-
how many tickets the track sells because it's a private entity and they don't want you to know. And so they kept that under wraps enough that I listened to enough news sources that people that are kind of plugged into things, and everybody kind of knows Robert Miller. He had heard sniffs of it Friday, and it dropped Sunday night. I think people started to know, and Monday they made an official announcement, but they worked that deal over 6 weeks without anybody finding out that
Yeah.
was what was going to happen.
Extremely quiet.
I know I sound like I'm lying here, but I did read an article about this whole situation. And it was,
Expert Mason.
they were saying like they did it all behind the scenes and there's nobody better to buy it than Roger Penske. He said, what made me say that is because he said how much money it brings to Speedway, not Indianapolis. I'm like, I could care less.
So
Yeah, that was what was interesting about it being sold was the what was the guy, the Hulman and Company guy?
Tony George is
George.
the top guy, the Hulman George family.
He said in the article that I read that he approached Roger Penske
at the last race of the
Yeah.
year. I like to have,
and said,
I hope somebody's scouring their pictures for that
Looking
last
for them
race
talking?
to see if they happen to have a picture of his reaction, because he reportedly walked up to him and he said, I didn't want to bug him. It was before the race and he had a couple of drivers in the championship race. And he said, I want to talk to you about stewardship, and just walked away. And he said that Penske like kind of looked at him like, what? And I think he knew exactly what he was talking about. So,
I mean, that's got to be the biggest day in Roger Penske's life. Just about. You win the championship in IndyCar at Laguna Seca.
you had a real good year.
And then you won more than half the races.
You won the 500.
You won the Grand
pole,
Prix.
You
won everything in Indy. And then Tony George comes to you and says, hey, do you want to buy the Speedway? That's big. So
he said
there have
Tony
been rumors
George,
for years about
well,
it
he
selling.
said that in the springtime they got an offer on the Speedway and they turned it down.
So the Speedway has been in the Hulman family or the Hulman George family since 1944. It was 74 years, so maybe 1945. There were 4 years during World War II where there was no race held. There were 2 years in World War I and 4 years in World War II when there was no race held. The Speedway had fallen into incredible disrepair. Wilbur Shaw connected the Hulman family in Terre Haute with the track. It was purchased and they took it over, had a race that first year, and have continued ever since. And nobody ever expected the family to sell it. But what kind of happened is after Tony Hulman died, his daughter took over, and then it split. There were 4 kids, and the daughter passed away last year, and it kind of got to the point where I don't know that they all had a true passion for the track and had the financial wherewithal to push it forward.
And you kind of heard rumors in the past. Tony's really involved, and they've made a lot of improvements to the track in that time frame, and since
Especially around 98, 99, 2000.
Tony was in charge.
When NASCAR money was big.
And there was a kind of a rumor at one point that they'd stopped putting money into the track because the sisters had said, stop spending money on the track.
Stop supporting it.
Stop supporting the series. There was rumors, I think, that they had pumped like $100 million into the IRL to keep it afloat for a couple of years there. And they said, stop. And so they kind of slowed down on improvements into the track. But you knew Tony's been a race team owner the entire time and is real invested into the series. So
with the track selling, you look at who purchased it and who could have possibly purchased it. And everybody, I think my Facebook status the morning it happened was like head sewn to the carpet, shocked. Like, oh my God, what just happened? But then you take a break and you say, okay, if somebody's going to buy the Speedway, this could have been a Bill Gates. This could have been a Steve Ballmer.
I think Jim Irsay should have bought it.
It could have been a Jim Irsay. It could be somebody that owns, it could have been Stephen Ross, somebody that owns major, it could have been Donald Trump. It could have been people that own massive properties and sports teams, or it could have been a GE or Disney or a major conglomerate that wants an entertainment facility. But it was purchased by a racer, Zach. Yeah. And there were 2 names that I mentioned. I said there are 2 people in the IndyCar family, in the circle, that could do this. And it probably landed with the right one.
Yeah, I would agree. The other one probably being John Minardi. I think the other fear would have been if people are familiar with just NASCAR. NASCAR has gotten into the business of owning all their own tracks too. And if it just got rolled into that, then you're worried about IndyCar's future as opposed to Penske, who is diehard and he loves the Indy 500.
So if you look at Roger Penske's background and you look at, he owns, I think that company that the media reports like $22 billion a year in revenue for Penske Corp, across Ilmore, across Penske Truck Leasing, across the automotive vehicle empire. I mean, it's just
he has
phenomenal.
64,000 employees. And wow. I guess one statistic I heard was that he is the number 1 seller of luxury automobiles in the United States.
I was going to say 230 million.
So yeah, it's massive. So for Roger Penske, you know, he's got all of these business interests across the country. He lives in Detroit. And you look at him, and if there's an IndyCar race, he is sitting on the pit box for the last since 1976, 1972. I guess Penske, 1969, he came to the Speedway as a semi-participant. He came the first time, he said, in 1951. But his time and his effort, he's sitting on the pit box as a strategist, monitoring those race teams at Indianapolis. Even if there's a NASCAR race that has 10 times the purse and his guys, you know, Logano and Keselowski are winning races on the regular there, he's at the IndyCar races. You know, that's where his heart is at. So when he's presented with the opportunity, it was just, how do we get it done? Which is very good news, I think, for the future of the IndyCar series.
You said he lives in Detroit.
Lives in Detroit.
Do you
yeah.
think he moves to Indiana?
No,
after
absolutely
the purchase?
not.
I heard an interview with him and they asked him that. He said, I can fly down in a couple of hours. His race teams are based out of Charlotte. Yeah. And that's a huge operation. I think he has like it's 500 or 600 people work for the race team in Charlotte. And he has Tim Cindric's his right-hand man that runs all that operation. So I think he'll probably end up with a place down here, but I don't think he doesn't spend that much time at home.
Detroit, though?
Yeah. I've always thought that was strange too, as big as his operations are, but I think he has kind of a national empire.
He owned Detroit Diesel. He's in the automotive industry. He's in racing. It makes sense, right? That is his automotive industry. Detroit's very close to his heart, right? He's been the promoter of the Belle Isle Grand Prix for a very long time. When the Super Bowl was played in Detroit, he was the chairman of the Super Bowl host committee. He's owned racetracks in the past. He owned the Michigan International Speedway from the 70s through the 90s when he sold it to ISC. He's owned Nazareth Speedway. He's owned a number of racetracks as well. His son, Greg, was in charge of the racetracks. So I think people are kind of expecting him to probably fold into the Penske Entertainment
He did say that
role.
He didn't plan on making any changes with the management structure or anything that is already existing at the Speedway.
That's your concern, right?
Yeah.
Your best friend, your boy Doug.
Doug Bowles, because Doug Bowles is amazing, and I thought it was real encouraging that the day after the announcement, Tuesday morning, he was eating breakfast at Charlie Brown's with Doug and
Mark Miles,
and they said same tradition, new crew, and it was just him tacked on there. So if he keeps those guys and they're doing a great job,
And it sounds like he's keeping Tony George around too.
he even acted like he might give him the ability to buy interest into the back end of the track, which sounds great, and then give him a spot on the board because he was choking up at the announcement at the press conference. So he doesn't. I don't think he really wants to get out, but I doubt he has the money to buy his sisters out of the business. So I think he's got he's got great intentions for the place, and he wants to see it stand for another 100 years. So
all of this is great news. But Roger Penske was born in the 1930s, Mason.
82 years old.
Whoa, really?
So he's going to give it to me when he dies.
So this is the thing that people are like, well, how long,
But you already said that his son he's already super involved with the racetrack, so it just makes sense that his son would continue and take over the business venture
And
of
maybe that
the
was part of the
Indianapolis
plan.
Motor Speedway.
His other son's has been into racing. I think
Jay Penske has owned race teams in the past,
now,
and he's in the media world. So the family's definitely involved in the future. The race team itself, Tim Cindric, who's an Indiana native, he grew up with our governor. They were childhood pals. Eric Holcomb and Tim Cindric grew up in the Terre Haute area together.
My uncle.
Penske is in good hands in the future, no matter what. And if you listen to the interviews, Roger Penske is sharper than anybody sitting at this table, right? The guy is ready to go. Could live another 20 years, could be at the helm for another 20 years. You just don't know.
102 years old, managing a $22
P.
billion
McAllister was
empire.
101 years old and was doing just fine in Indianapolis until he passed away last
Robin
week.
Miller joked with him. I bet he wasn't joking that he's gone like 320 days a year, and he's just constantly traveling. And when he told his wife, "Hey, I might be able to buy the track," she's like, "Well, that's another opportunity." and like that's just the way they see it as an opportunity. That's the good thing is that he doesn't. Even his race teams make money. He doesn't throw money at anything just to throw money at it. So whatever he does will make good business sense for the track in the long term. So
Hey, They say you stop, you die.
As
He
long
hasn't
as
stopped.
As long as Penske lets me keep camping for the Grand Prix, I'm all in.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
And people are real concerned about coolers.
Yes. The morning of. So
Can we
Mason,
still
you
take
remember
our coolers?
You remember being able to bring in our coolers and
Yeah.
whatever we wanted to.
We had the damn thing strapped all over and about 6 of them. So, yeah.
The lawless nature of the Speedway.
Surprised we didn't have like a train that's attached to the back, just pulling them in.
And honestly,
A
you know,
trailer.
Doug
You guys
Bowles has
need
commented on that in the
my
past.
adventure trailer that I built last year.
I don't know if they'll let me bring a trailer.
I'm waiting for somebody just
It's
to drive
anarchy.
I'm waiting for somebody just to drive in a reefer truck.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need? What do you need any of this other space for? Just strap 2 chairs to the back.
Has anybody ever driven in an old Winnebago or something?
Back in the day, yes. I don't know if they do. I don't
See,
know
I
if they
feel
would
like that
anymore.
would be the way to go.
Back.
You're not allowed to build your own scaffolding anymore, but if you
Yeah,
look at
there
pictures
were
from the
some injuries
70s,
from that.
Dakota,
I
it
have
is
seen
incredible.
those pictures. You showed them to me. Yeah,
That one
it
time you
does
bought
look
tickets and
lawless.
we're going to come.
It was, yeah. And like an old school like '78 Winnebago that's been like kept in good condition on the inside.
Don't
would be
bring your good
amazing.
condition Winnebago to the infield.
It would be absolutely amazing.
You need to go.
I feel.
You need to go to Eldora and see. There's campers with beer taps on the outside of them there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if they would let you in the infield now, especially with security the way it is. They might have to check it over. But the issue more would be getting it through the right tunnels because some of the tunnels aren't as tall as the other tunnels. So
Yeah.
might lose your air conditioner.
Could I take my bucket truck and then I would have great seats?
There are people.
I want to see it. If nothing else, I want to see how the yellow shirts get you down. And you
I'm 40 feet in the air.
You might
Come down from there.
worst case scenario, all you have is whistles going at you the entire time. They're really freaking out.
You can't get me.
We've had, oh my God, there's so many stories. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Danny and I got to the infield and we drove his truck and my truck parked next to each other, and they were being very difficult to negotiate with about how we were parking. We wanted to park side by side and they wanted us to park nose to tail, and we weren't having any part of it. There was a yellow shirt in a golf cart who actually drove into Danny's truck. It was quite the experience. A little shouting match
You got an
happened.
aggressive yellow shirt.
And then the yellow shirt came back by and apologized later and explained all of the problems in his life.
That
and said
just
he's
made me
sorry.
think of the scene from Elf where he's like,
You're an
must
angry
be-
elf.
You must be a South Pole yellow shirt.
Doug wouldn't approve of a golf cart hitting a customer's car. In the parking lot.
It was quite the deal. I've had
I'm
so many
calling
things.
Doug.
I've said I will tweet him right now. Now, as I look at the resume that Dakota has put together for Mr. Penske, he says that Penske, Zach, has won 18 INDYCAR races since 1969.
Impressive. He won 9 this year.
Yeah, I don't know. He was really loafing. He was really loafing those other 39,
He actually won
40 years.
18 Indianapolis 500 since 1969.
Indianapolis 500s, IndyCar. It was. Hey, I wrote this.
So is it 18 Indy 500s?
He's won
or is
18
it-
Indy 500.
18 Indy 500s. There's a picture.
Yeah.
It was a picture you saw all over the place when we bought the track, and it was him, and it's just
I saw
Borgs,
all the-
the Borgs lined up, and yeah, his team won 9 races this year.
More than half the races.
Yeah, people were kind of worried about whether or not he would be fair running the series, and
I was question number 1, by the way, in the Marshall Pruitt
you got on there.
podcast.
Jeremiah
got number
Morrell
1.
gets in there every week, and somebody pointed
Morrell.
out quickly that he won more than half the races, swept the month of May, and won the championship without owning the series. I don't know why he needs to cheat to win anymore.
All right, so Dakota, it's 18 Indy 500s. Can you name all of the winners for Team Penske? I'll wait.
No.
Can you name any of the winners for Team Penske? I'll wait.
Hey, no.
Guy from last year. Isn't he Penske?
Yeah.
I got to think of his Fernando.
Simon
Pagano.
Fernando missed the race. Zach, how many can you name of the Team Penske winners?
I don't even know if I could name that many because I didn't pick up the old history as well as you did. But Will Powers won.
That's 1.
Rick Mears.
That's 2.
Allinger Jr.
3.
Emerson Fittipaldi.
4. Who won this year?
Simon
Simon
Pagano.
Pagano.
5.
Gilles de Ferran.
6.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
7.
Yeah,
That's like some name off Breaking Bad.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
He is for
You know what?
Colombia.
He's about that dangerous if you're on the track with him too.
We're at 7. Have you said any answers yet? You said 1 answer.
Oh yeah, so Big Al.
All right, that's
Did
8.
Bobby win one for him?
Sure, he did.
Bobby
that's
wins
9.
one for everybody.
Bobby.
Have you said Danny Sullivan yet?
No, not Danny Sullivan.
No. Have you said?
Hey, I just wanted to say this.
Rutherford?
April Burcham
I don't think
sent me a
April's
friend request.
That's the. Yeah, he knows her pretty well.
I know. I just wanted to. Thanks, April. We're friends now.
Have you said Sam Hornish yet?
No, I forgot
No.
about
So that's
Sam.
like 11
Yeah.
drivers. Did you say Mark Donahue?
No, see, that gets into the history that I have to study up on.
That's 12. Did you ever say Rick Mears?
Yeah, he did.
I said
I heard
Rick
that
Meir.
one.
Yeah,
It
Rick
was like
Meir.
his third.
Yeah,
All right.
Rick was real good for him
I think
there.
we pretty well have it covered.
Yeah,
There's 4. And Elio. He didn't name Elio.
Elio.
You son of a
How do
bitch.
I forget about Elio Castro?
Do you think Roger Penske could name all of them?
Yes.
Yes, he has all the cars too. Probably.
Yeah,
I
in
think
his
he has
garage.
he has his own museum.
In his basement.
The
probably.
very first Indy 500 I attended, and this is kind of big news, Roger said he's not going to be on the pit box anymore.
Yeah, he did.
So
So he has
he
bigger
is
things
done.
to do. He's going to follow Robin Miller around.
The very first Indy 500
Big
I
joke.
attended was 2003. I sat in the second row behind Dan Weldon's pit on pit road. So I had a great view of everybody on pit road. I had really terrible seats to actually see the track, but I had great seats to see the people, to see the crews, to see the service, and to see the faces of the people on pit lane because I was right there at the start-finish line. So Gilles de Ferran beat, I guess it was Elio. Elio finished 1-1, and then he finished second. So his first 3 years, he finished first, and second at the Indy 500. And I watched Roger probably at 70 years old, 68 years old, with childhood joy running down the straightaway, having his cars finish 1-2 and winning his third Indy 500 in a row since coming back to the Speedway. That was my very first race I attended and saw the joy in Roger's face. So that was cool.
You need to go to a race sometime just to go walk down through all the garages and save his garage for last, and then you'll understand.
You'll see the Penske
There's a
perfect
term.
way.
Yeah, Penske perfect is a thing, and he started it back. His first race he ever attended was in 51. He talks about his dad took him there, and he just was enamored immediately. But when he came, they would sweep the floors every night. They would put everything up. They would have their shirts tucked in. They would have everything. And he's like, because if you take care of the little details, then the big details take care of themselves. So he has
I like
a whole
that.
philosophy.
Love that philosophy.
And then
He wanted to impress his sponsors. He
Yeah.
thought his sponsors deserved that.
and other teams would notice that. They're like, well, how are we going to get this guy to – because that was back in the day where you might sign your sponsor during the month of May. You might just show up, you run for a couple weeks, and you make a handshake deal with the guy. And they're like, we can't get deals made because why would they make a deal with us? Our engine's torn apart and covered in oil in the back of the shop, and Penske shop looks like it's a museum piece. So it was it's a different way of operating. You can tell when you walk by his garage. One of his garage stalls is just an air conditioner that pumps cold air into the other garage stall. So he air conditions it himself.
Yeah, so that was really a neat way to get it
I
started.
woke up dumbfounded. I literally woke up dumbfounded, immediately kind of nervous.
So before
We don't
we
like change.
we move on to talking about Mason being racist,
Yes,
the
you should
la-
really work on that, Mason.
Yeah, the last point on this is: do you guys think that it's going to change anything?
Only
at
for the good.
Speedway?
I think there'll be significant changes. He has an incredible business pull. Like they even mentioned, Mark Miles mentioned. Mark Miles is a guy he used to head up tennis association. He headed up the Super Bowl committee for here in Indiana. He's got a lot of pull. But he says there's people that won't answer for us. They'll answer for Roger Penske. And like currently they have a race in Detroit, and it's a doubleheader. Why? Because he wants it to be. Chevy sponsors it. Why? Because Roger Penske says you need to sponsor this race. He builds their engines. He's also, his integrity is unquestioned. People immediately jumped in like, well, can we trust him? He currently runs a Honda, basically an Acura race team in sports cars.
The Cadillac of Hondas.
The Cadillac of Hondas. He runs their factory sports car program. He builds Chevy's engines for INDYCAR, and he runs Fords in NASCAR and in V8 supercars in Australia. So he's literally got deals with all the major, every major
all of the
manufacturer.
racing manufacturers, and he sells for even more
and
in
so-
the dealership side.
And so they all, if they trust him with millions of dollars to develop things and build things for him, then why wouldn't anybody else? Like he knows how to keep things separated, keep things fair, and he's been around. Everybody knows just him owning the series brings a more legitimacy to the series because he's a business guy first. That's how he got to where he is.
He was also a fantastic race car driver. He started 2 Formula One races as a driver in his career. He ran at Riverside in stock cars. He had turned down a test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to focus on his car dealerships, a test that went to Mario Andretti, guy that kind of turned into something. He was a hell of a race car driver himself, too. Just a phenomenal
Some
individual.
of the plans I've already heard he mention. He wants to make it an event space, so maybe they'll get more semi-permanent stage in there. He just kind of was floating ideas, endurance racing and stuff. He wants to get some more races there, and I'm all for that. Give me an excuse. I mean, there's a fan base that'll show up to that track, whatever. They could have, dachshund racing, and I'll show up there if it means a day at the track. So, but I think there's nothing. If he has a good idea, it'll make business sense. He'll have people that are supporting it, and it'll go well.
Commercially, I would expect the series to be able to attract more sponsors and trend in the right direction. And if you look at the track record of people that work for Mr. Penske, they don't leave. He finds people, he lets them do their job, they do it well, and they stay for decades. People don't leave Team Penske. They don't leave his business. They stay, and they're there for a very long time. You're like Rick Mears. You win 4 Indy 500s for him, and then you spend the next 20 years working for the man. Just really impressive. So that's the IMS thing. Mason?
Shame.
You all look at me.
Shame.
Boiler up, baby. I was just minding my own business, reading the news. Next thing I know, Lafayette, Indiana, a 3-letter pharmacy that you're very closely aligned with at times, is in the news for one of your cohorts, a brother at arms at Boiler Up U, has been turned away from being able to buy, I assume, his Sudafed?
Mucinex. It was Mucinex.
His Mucinex.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have proper identification.
Here's what happened. A student up at Purdue University, a young Puerto Rican man, he has a cold. He's got a horrible cold, but hey, he's a dedicated student to his learning. He walks into CVS and he says, I need to buy some Mucinex. Apparently, you have to go to the pharmacy counter at the Lafayette CVS. Mason is behind the counter and says,
No.
And says,
No, I'm not.
And says, I need to see your ID.
And he said, I can only sell to Americans.
The man gives his ID to Mason. It's a Puerto Rican ID because he's from Puerto Rico.
As Wall co-host,
you damn illegal, build
James
the
Neese
wall.
says, a Puerto Rican is just a parallel Mexican. You're not an American.
Is that what you? That's what happened. Except it wasn't Mason. It was some white lady. It was some
me.
It was some Becky, some Karen.
Yeah, it was probably Karen, probably Boomer.
She was. She started heckling him. She asked him. She said, "I can't accept your Puerto Rican ID. I need to see your visa."
So
and he said, "I'm an American.
I was born in this country.
says,
I spend dollars and watch MTV, bitch. What do you want from me?
I pay taxes just like you do." And she said,
Trump's my president.
She said,
Nobody's happy about it.
she started asking him about the immigration process and if he was an illegal. And he kept saying, I am an American. Puerto Rico is an American territory. She didn't believe him. This lady was an idiot. How did she make it behind that pharmacy counter?
Well, my question is, it depends on which Mucinex. You have to be 18 by both.
Oh, you have to be an American to buy certain Mucinex.
At our pharmacy, I imagine is the same for all the CVSs. We only keep a certain Mucinex behind
The good Mucinex.
the good Mucinex with the decongestant, I believe.
I've had to get it from
behind the
behind the
counter.
counter at a pharmacy. Yeah.
But there's also Mucinex out on the floor that I believe you still have to be 18
Everybody
to buy.
over the counter.
Yeah, but it's still behind the pharmacy over the counter. It's just we keep it back there. You know. So
What do you know about this this pseudoephedrine that is apparently the UK type? There's a different type of Sudafed
I don't keep up on it.
in the UK and a different type in America. And the UK type is apparently like the good kind. It's the kind that we can't get here anymore because of all the meth people.
You
And-
can.
We can't have nice things here.
Yeah.
You can't get
And-
good Mucinex.
Well, but listen to this. There's the picture. The picture. Whenever candidate Trump had he's sitting behind his desk in Trump Tower, and he says, "I love Hispanics," and he had the taco bowl in front of him. Remember that picture?
Yes.
Somebody they zoomed in on the picture, and he has the desk drawer open, and you can see the UK type of Sudafed in his drawer, and he had more than what was the legal amount. So that was interesting.
It's legal to stock up on Sudafed.
Yeah, you
That's
from
not
the
a crime.
UK.
You can't buy.
We
You can only
get-
buy
on
so
a
much at
certain
one
day.
time, but
Can
you
you
don't
get
have to
me
use
that
it.
kind?
Dude.
So I want to know, as a student on that campus in the pharmacy program, was there a little bit of talk about that this week? Was it?
I really
was
didn't
it?
hear anything. There was
you
a
guys
protest.
didn't joke about it?
Well, there was a protest outside of that CVS, which I went into that CVS a couple of weeks ago. There was a protest out. There were like 12,
You guys did like dedicated day of
20
class to geography.
25
Damn.
Pharmacists learned about the territories.
But-
Guam, American. Puerto Rico, American. Virgin
But
Islands,
It's
American.
weird because the pharmacy in that, like you think with so many people on that campus, and that's the closest pharmacy other than the student ran pharmacy in the pharmacy building, that your pharmacy would be huge. Like Newcastle CVS pharmacy is big. Like there's a lot of space in there. Their pharmacy's no bigger than this studio.
Then Boss Hog Corporate,
It's not big at all. And I went in there.
Interception Raiders.
And there's only like 3 people working there. So you can kind of really narrow it down because a pharmacist probably should be smart enough to know that.
Who's the white lady? Was there?
Well, I
That's
don't
the one
really
that did
know.
it.
And I feel sorry for the guy. I had to buy Mucinex, and I feel nervous enough just getting Mucinex because where's your driver's license, and they scan it. I'm like, oh great, they're gonna think I'm the next Walter White, and they're gonna come
they're
after
tracking
me.
you.
And I'm like, I just want to breathe. Like that's all you want to do is breathe.
I get the nasal spray. The nasal spray always works well for
I
me.
buy the straight up Sudafed.
Yeah, me too.
I straight up. I don't want Mucinex. I just get the real deal Sudafed. I work in Muncie, and there's only one CVS in the entire town that you
Oh
can
my
actually buy
god,
it at.
you're
Yeah, you can. Tillotson.
Is it
Actually, they made you
Tillotson?
go
I
to
don't know.
Tillotson.
like you can't buy it at the other ones.
No, I went to the one on the south side by my office.
That
and
makes
they-
sense.
And they're like,
That makes
no,
sense.
hell no. You ain't buying that good stuff here. You got to go to Tillotson by the campus.
What was it? A couple years ago, there was a meth lab in the south side Walmart.
Yeah. It wasn't a meth lab. It was just a 2-liter
was
bottle.
the
of
shaken-
thing.
It was the shake and
Yeah,
bake.
shake and
it
bake.
wasn't
In the bathroom.
real.
In the bathroom.
They were like, our other place burned down. Where can we go? Walmart. They'll never look here. Hide right under their noses. What's that smell?
Yeah, Sarah, my lovely bride, is in the chat saying Rushville. She tried to buy it in Rushville, and if you have an out of county
New
driver's license,
Rushville CVS pharmacist. I want to say, is it winning?
no, Kroger.
He's
They're all
at the
Kroger.
Rushville Kroger?
He's the Rushville Kroger.
Okay, I knew he
pharmacist, yes.
went over to Rushville.
I just
but
want to.
yes.
I want to know the type of person that gets an ID from Puerto Rico and immediately starts
well,
going,
here's the thing.
where's your visa?
I'll
Huh?
tell you what.
Listen here, punk.
I don't.
You want cold medicine? Nuh-uh.
I think it was
Not-
even a secure ID.
Yeah.
I think it had
Yeah, I
the
think
star.
it was a secure. Yeah,
Not with that
person-
driver's license, you won't.
that person was working in. I mean, I'm not saying like not everybody can work in a pharmacy, like. But
Seems like it.
I've
but
met
This racist
I've met a few
Last
people
year-
that you think, how the hell did you get this job?
but I heard myself fine.
Kroger
try
sent me an
harder.
email. Kroger's emailed me back about coming to interview for their.
We're hiring at CVS more than what Kroger starts
He
at.
doesn't want to work with you, though.
God, can you imagine?
Anyways, I told you that about 3 weeks ago. But
Keep it on the air, buddy. Let's talk about what we can talk about on the air. So what? So you don't do any profiling? You're telling me you don't do any
lost.
profiling? You don't look at people and say, "Yeah, you can't have it." Do you ever turn anybody away?
yeah, if they don't have their ID or anything, like
I
it will
would.
pop up in our system.
It's
If we
$20.
If we scan the ID, it automatically tells us like it either goes through or it says like expired.
What if somebody shows up with a passport? What are you going to do?
You allow it.
You're going to scan the passport and it's going to be okay?
You check if it's expired and put the birth date in.
So you have to key it in. You can't scan it.
Yeah.
It's manual. If you'd been given a Puerto Rican passport or Puerto Rican
There's an option
driver's
for
license,
it. There's even an option on screen for it.
So this lady was
You
just
select the
being
state.
blatantly
No,
racist.
you select driver's license, government issued ID, which is what that'd be. It's like, it's not hard. Just put the damn thing in.
If
Has this lady been fired yet?
I don't work there.
if you're going to profile for somebody possibly making meth or Puerto Rican people, like your stereotypical people up here, I don't think we have people coming out of town to the Midwest to bake their meth.
It's a kid with sniffles on campus who just wants his damn Munciacs.
I don't think he came all the way up to West Lafayette just to get his meth supply so he could take them
All right.
home.
I would understand.
It's a direct flight from
I would
San Juan to
understand
West Lafayette,
it's-
everybody.
If this was like, if I saw a picture of the Puerto Rican kid and he's like 80 pounds and he's got sores all over his face and missing teeth, I'd be like, yeah, I'd do everything in my power to decline that guy
Exactly.
You
too.
look like your normal college kid.
He did.
You look like in every other college kid, and who's everybody's sick because the
Zach, I
temperature-
hate to tell you, I'm far from 80 pounds. So
No, that is not the typical college kid.
Have you tried-
I'm saying that
Have
is
you
the
tried
kid
getting a
that's
little
not
methy
right.
to slim down, Mason?
no, hasn't went past my mind. But back to what I was saying, you'd think somebody with at least a little bit of common sense working in a pharmacy would know that like that's good to go, because when I lived with two guys from Bangladesh my freshman year, and all they had was their passport because they didn't have their driver's licenses. And so everywhere they went and they bought things, they got ID'd with the passport and they were fine to go.
It's the
They went into
government-issued
Harry.
ID.
They broke into Harry's with their passports.
Well, they weren't old enough, but
I'm one of the first people to say and think if someone is overreacting on, like, if something comes out in the news and people jump on a bandwagon and start calling a person in the news racist,
like you did me.
I'm one person. I'm the type of guy that will look into
Hey,
it and
look,
be like,
exactly.
Mason has
that's
black friends, okay?
overreacting. He has a black sister.
Anyways,
So-
I'm far from it.
So it's like I would look at a story like that, but this lady at the CVS,
I think
that's blatantly racist.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
She immediately starts asking about the immigration process, if he has his papers, if his visa has expired, and he's like, I have a U.S. government issued ID, a driver's license.
Yeah.
And she's, nope, that's Puerto Rican.
I really hope that someday
And CVS, all they said
somebody
was,
from Alabama gets turned away for not living in the States. Just like, something
No,
absolutely
what
ridiculous.
the Tom
Maine-
Segura joke of Louisiana. That's the state that he always craps all over. He said, "Build the wall, but build it around Louisiana."
Mississippi, Louisiana. You just pick a state. Montana, Connecticut. I don't know.
That is a scary part to somebody's in a position where they have access to like that kind of stuff and they're making those decisions and they don't know Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Like that's elementary school stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, we don't give it to states that are bankrupt. So if you live in Illinois or if you're from Puerto Rico, we can't help you. We can't trust your motives.
but CVS came out with a statement saying we are going to give training to the individual, updating her.
I hope.
Well, that's good.
I hope you enjoy your corporate training that you have to get
It
because somebody
sucks.
can't find.
Are they going
I probably have one right on my module right there saying
Listen,
in
Mason,
all bold,
it's
These
stars around
territories
it.
it is a
are
fact
America.
of adult life that you will constantly be taking modules on the computer in your adult job that are designed for sixth graders. That's how it is in every job that I've ever had as an adult, and it never stops.
You just hope one day the safety briefing is because of what you did.
I was really hoping next time we go to the CVS, there's just a map of the United States back behind the pharmacy counter.
All
just-
the blue are like the states we allow.
and there's just like check marks
Well, wait,
over
what?
all the states.
So legitimately, like, do you have to be an American to buy it, or is it just you have to be old enough?
you have to be old enough.
Right. So it's a Puerto Rican ID, and so if a Canadian, some Joe Blow from Windsor, Ontario walks in,
Canadians are white, so they probably
some Joe Blow from Windsor walks in and says, "Hey, I'd like to buy some Sudafed." You look at it and say, "Yeah, you're 27 years old. Here's your Sudafed, sir. Have a good day." Is that good enough?
I mean, that's what I do. If they're old enough and no warnings pop up or anything, it's like,
once
take
you
it.
put their info in the system and it clears them, they're old enough.
Exactly.
That's it. You've done your job. You've done your due diligence.
You're not law enforcement. You're a guy who has to go through
I
the
just
step
have
because
to go
government's
through
worried about it.
protocol. You know, we don't want everybody out there making the goods.
I
And
know somebody who was a pharmacist, and I know that they have some discretion in making those calls. And sometimes,
Yeah, like-
because he would have people that would come in and would complain because they started, and this was more opioid stuff. People come in and they complain they got the wrong pills because their hydrocodone was the kind you can't crush.
Yeah.
Like, I got the wrong ones. And he's like, not happening. I'm not going to replace your prescription.
I know.
Sorry, you're getting the gel.
Yeah, but they would, but it was that kind of thing that would cause him to flag something going on. Was they're coming in and they want a different set of narcotics because they can't abuse the ones that they have appropriately for them. But
if I buy too much Sudafed, it's because I'm wildly irresponsible, and some's in my car, and some's in my backpack, and some is in my laptop bag, and some's in my desk drawer at home, and I want to have it everywhere.
But I bought.
That's why I would buy too much.
I had like bronchitis for like 6 weeks, and I went in and I bought like a 12 capsule pack of Mucinex, and then I had to go back because I burned through it pretty quick because I was sick for like a month and a half, and I was like, "Can I get the 24 tablet one?" Because I was like, I don't know what the I'm like, I'm just
It's
waiting
a
for
daily limit.
I'm like waiting for a red flag to go off because I know that some people have gotten caught up because if you've got like teenage kids or something like that their doctors told them to take it, and the mom has and the mom has to go get it, or you get like the whole family gets sick, then you have to like rotate who's going to the pharmacy. So
I feel like it probably is the responsible thing to do, to just go buy as much as you can every time you can, and then just keep it at home so that you have it in stock for when you need it.
You just
It
bounce
expires,
around.
though.
Yeah, it
Doesn't it?
expires.
I mean, so does milk, but you still drink it.
I don't
know.
drink milk, regardless.
I'm kind of the stickler on milk. If it's past the date, it's down the drain.
You don't give it the sniff test?
No.
it's a sniff test. Yeah.
You can't really trust the sniff test either, though, because you get the
Exactly.
little dried parts around the ring. So you got to
you're
pour
like-
it in a cup first, and then be like,
It's just a little bit of sour. Nope. Ruin my Frosted Flakes.
What if I told you that Sarah served you some old food tonight?
What?
How old do you think that?
most expiration dates are BS.
Yeah,
anyway.
most of them are just.
How
off
old
the
do you
shelf.
think that frozen cauliflower was?
It was probably like a year old, but it was frozen.
frozen.
It was frozen.
So what's the difference between a little bit of old Sudafed or some frozen cauliflower?
Well, I
tummy
mean, medicine. I mean,
Make your tum tum hurt.
like people will straight tell you it's literally just a sell tactic. Like you have to take it off the shelf.
Right.
That's
Just
the
You
same
think
thing
it's
with-
going to go bad?
That's the same thing with food. There's like actual like normal. I've had Girl Scout cookies in my house before that were
Thin Mints.
years past their.
And you take a bite,
and
it
you
tastes
take a
like-
bite, and you're like, "Oh, this tastes like a cookie. Like it does. It hasn't aged a bit in the last 5 years. It's been in
And
my
peanut
cabinet.
butter, you
fine.
sit that stuff on the shelf, and it's just there. Collects a little oil, you just mix it up again
It's
and
stable.
spread it on your bread.
Not
Guffy,
mayonnaise.
is there anything you'll eat that's
I wouldn't
ridiculously old?
save mayonnaise. Fruit snacks.
Ridiculously old.
Yeah, ridiculously old, out of date stuff that's just been on the shelf in the pantry.
Yeah, like those little baggies of chips.
Oh, those.
Like
Old Doritos.
Yeah, like I've run out of chips, and then I'm like, I look up there on the top shelf, and I'm like, those have been there for a minute. Then you just grab them. You're like,
I'm not going to go bad.
Now
It's gonna
there
go
are
stale,
some
right?
there are some things you'll bite into
Yeah.
and go, oh hell no.
oh yeah.
That's dust now. It's gone.
The shadiest thing in our house is shredded cheese.
Yeah.
Because shredded cheese doesn't smell good when it's fresh. And you take a smell and you're like, is this just normal bad or bad? And it's like,
we
I
go
don't
through
know.
too much shredded
Sarah-
cheese at my house.
Sarah is extremely upset right now for the little white lie I told, like Forrest Gump and his mama. The cauliflower was brand new, and she has a reputation to uphold, and she's very, very.
I was going to say it was
very
like
upset.
Herbert Walker Bush era cheese that was in there or something, but
Now there are times that we don't use the FIFO first in first out system on cheese, and we do have to. If it turns color, if the cheese is not the natural
Yeah.
color or the store dyed color, then we will pitch it.
Penicillin, right? Oh no, that's bread mold.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, if it's a block of cheese,
you can just cut off
it's
the
moldy
bad.
naturally. You just cut off what's
Just cut
not
the bad.
needed.
But shredded
and you're
cheese
good.
is a
shredded's a loss.
You always go with the block though.
Yeah,
It melts better, tastes better.
it depends.
You just have to put a little bit more work into it.
We consume a ridiculous amount of cheese in our house.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been cheese talk, everybody.
I like nacho cheese, fake cheese. It doesn't go bad.
I do
Yes.
wonder what kind of cheese we had in that dish.
The Rico
But you haven't
cheese.
publicly thanked my wife yet, Mason, for the meal she made.
Oh, you want me to do
Publicly,
it on
yes.
here? I did there.
You sent in a request.
I would like to thank Mrs. Sarah Morrell for making dinner tonight in the Instapot It was delicious. I requested some low key white trash meal that was on Facebook, and it was like smoked sausage. I'm a really big fan of smoked sausage.
There were two packages of smoked sausage.
Delicious. It was like a cheddar for meat. I don't know what it exactly kind of was. It was good.
There was cheddar cheese.
And,
there was shredded cheese. There was some Velveeta cheese. Maybe I don't know.
Condensed cream of chicken soup.
Cream of cheddar soup or something.
And then
cauliflower instead of taters.
Cream of mushroom.
Instead of like potatoes, she put cauliflower in, and it was a really good substitution.
It's tasty.
Got you to eat your vegetables.
Very good.
Even though the sausage was spicy.
The sausage was a little spicy, but I liked it.
You, Mr. Whitebread, had to leave the room and get a drink, eating mild sausage.
I didn't even think it was that bad. I don't do spicy.
I know. And he literally had to get up from his chair and go to the other room and get his drink.
Speaking of spicy, I talked to Darren
spicy.
Jacobs the other day, and he has some...
How is Comrade Darren?
What's his outlook on the shooting last night?
He has some Carolina Reapers that he said that he would love to bring on the show.
I'm ready.
Well, we need a guest on Thursday.
I'm ready.
I just checked off my Darren Jacobs mention.
Yeah, we got it. We got it in there at the last minute. Comrade Jacobs, hello. Hope you're enjoying watching on your wife's account because you're too chicken shit to have your own Facebook anymore.
I'll start final thoughts with this. Darren has really helped me out as I have gone through the process of trying to register a business to the state of Indiana and trying to figure out legal red tape of what I can and cannot do as a residential handyman in the county and things. I've called him with multiple questions, multiple different times, and he has walked me through all of it. He's been super helpful. And I cannot thank him enough for everything that he's done as far as answering me questions. He's still a socialist, but he's done a good job.
Do you sneak in a question about chickens every fourth question?
No, it's strictly business.
I really
chickens are business.
I gave a number of city councilmen the business over chickens at the polls this last week.
It is something I don't understand.
You heard
what
Mark,
the problem is.
You heard Mark.
Yeah, he was very matter of fact about it.
But that's my final thoughts. I want to say thank you to Darren for all of his question answering and for always answering my phone calls whenever I call him and not just ignoring me.
You never call me.
Let's talk to our boy Chris. Final thoughts. Are you looking forward to spending more time with your family in your retirement post-election?
I don't really have time. I still stay busy. Even though I felt like shit for losing the election, I had a meeting the next day. So you got to stay involved. That's the only way you can keep.
The sun came up. You were answering your correspondence. You didn't crawl into a hole. You're still here.
No, I did apologize to some people because I felt like I was a little short with them. Just saying thank you.
If that was angry, Chris, I don't know. You haven't met Angry Jer. I'm much worse than you.
I wasn't angry. It was just I was short in responses to people. So I did apologize to those. But two things on the final notes for me. One, I would like to publicly thank everybody that did support me and everybody that did come out and walk and do all that stuff. And anybody, I had to ask questions, and man, did I ask a lot of questions to people, and they're always kind enough to respond and give me some advice and tell me where I can go and do better and everything like that. So I'd like to applaud them. Thank you guys. And then number two is a guy I graduated with is kind of doing what the guy in the van did.
That does sound good.
He packed up. He's in his car.
Van down by
I was going to do it. I was going to.
Well, no, he's in his car. He puts solar on top of his car.
Bruno,
yeah.
like Bruno did Jordan Bruno back in the day.
Yeah, living in his van, but he's living in his car and he's driving all across the country, and he's just explaining and just following him on Instagram. It's pretty cool. And then also on that note, everybody should go and watch the documentary called Chasing Bubbles. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It's about a 25-year-old kid from Indiana. He was working up in Chicago, the Board of Trade. He was living there, and he decided he wasn't happy, drove down to Florida, bought a boat, learned how to sell it, and he sailed across all around the world. So
that is one of those back burner ideas. There's a guy named Wade Cunningham who Zach will know.
Yes,
who's now a realtor in Indianapolis, but he's a former Indianapolis 500 starter and he spent about a year living on a boat, just kind of just wandering the world with him and his girl and his cat, and kind of have him on the list of possible future guests.
His Instagram feed's gotten really interesting since he turned into a realtor.
Yes.
He's an interesting guy. It's not even like a normal cat. He has a Savannah. So it's this huge cat. He had it when he was at the track, and he sent a picture of his motorhome, and his cat takes up the whole front of the motorhome, laying across the dash.
So yeah, Wade Cunningham, and one of his business partners is actually a family friend as well. So, yeah, one of these days he's on my list of the. I don't know exactly when we'll invite him on and if he'll entertain us, but that's one of those out there, one of those free spirits. Final update from you, Chris. I know that this show, we have an affinity around here, and a lot of the fans do, for the West Wing. There's some West Wing literature up on the walls, and some the Bartlett for America poster.
Yep.
We got you started. There were some references a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you started. How far in are you?
Oh, I'm about to finish season 2.
So almost to finish season 2.
Yeah.
What's going on in the show?
So I don't want to tell anybody because
They're not spoilers. The show those air shows aired 15 years ago. So it's probably safe.
Bartlett just told Toby about his MS.
Oh.
So and
Scandalous.
Toby is pissed off. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, Toby is holier than thou. Enjoy.
Mason, you have anything? You're worried about getting fired now?
No, I'm not worried about it.
Do you really enjoy that job?
I really do. I work with a lot of great people.
You think you have a future in pharmacy?
I hope.
Are you Dr. Mason yet? You've been going to that school for a while now. When do we have to call you Dr. Mason Rottinghaus?
Never.
Is that not a real thing?
You can call me Mason.
But I mean, eventually you will be Dr. Mason.
Only when he's
Legally,
getting the
right?
pills.
I don't even know if that's like the right term. I'll have
It's not like a doctorate of pharmacy?
doctor of pharmacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
like when you fill out the forms, I'm kind of
I don't
douchey.
even know. I'm barely
I
a
would
farm
go,
tech. So.
I would do Dr. Jeremiah Morrell if I could.
Okay, so when I get stuff,
Would you
be
do
like-
Dakota?
It's Dr. Davis, please.
I
So-
didn't spend 5 years in Doctor of Pharmacy school. Thank you very much to be called Mister.
so when I order my Amazon package,
Yeah, I really
my
think you should
prefix
change
is going
that.
to be doctor.
I'm just saying I would do it.
You think I'll get more publicity?
Davis, party of 2. That's Dr. Davis, please.
Dr. Rottinghaus.
It's Dr.
Is there a
Rottinghaus.
doctor in the house? He's a doctor of pharmacy. It's not real.
Doctor. I really
Like my
don't
favorite
know.
comment. Is there a doctor in the house? I am. Okay, we need to start CPR immediately. I'm a doctor of philosophy. This man's going to die. We all are.
My final thoughts. Again, there's only one person who sent me a care package, and it was Andrew Bowman.
Christy didn't send you a care package?
No,
You call it.
I'm calling Christy out right now.
What did Andrew send you?
Andrew sent me?
He sent you
I think
popcorn,
this is
right?
originally in the Patreon, so I guess we're pulling it out of there.
I remember when you were going back to school and you were so optimistic, and you sent us an update and we played it on the show. And there have been zero
just about
updates
all
since.
that. I'll update you real quick on my final thoughts. Still single, still a pharmacy major. Quit that working out crap because it sucks. Modern Warfare came out, so I've been grinding it.
Someone else I know.
And that's about it. But
How is the dating life on campus? Are you meeting some young ladies that are looking for their MRS degree?
no,
Nothing?
I don't. I suck. Still same address? Absolutely. But no, I've no
Just nothing.
single. I go to
you're-
class, go to wherever I need to go, any meetings, and I'm in my room.
That's it.
Yeah, I like to sleep and
And you like to tweet.
tweet and
Are you
Modern
in the
Warfare.
dorms there?
Paige.
Yeah, I live on my own. It's nice.
Hey, Mason.
What?
So, my girlfriend has a single friend.
Oh, it's a girlfriend?
Is,
It's a girlfriend now?
what's her
We're using-
profession?
We're using those terms?
Which one?
So she has 2 single friends.
No, I'm saying, were you talking?
He's already triaging all of the women that are possible. Which one makes more money?
But the pharmacy thing doesn't
I
work
mean,
out.
I wouldn't.
With that line of
I
questioning.
wouldn't mind being.
She just sent me
Not
a
the
message
breadwinner.
and she's like, "Did you talk to Mason about?" I was like, "No, but I can right now."
You're lying right now. You're literally lying. Anyways, no. Another thing I need
God,
to
he
put on
turned so red. He has turned pure.
I mean, think about the
red.
low
Let's not
standards you
mention
got
names.
from
That is
Guffey, because
legitimately-
Guffey goes to hockey games instead of hangs out with his girlfriend on her birthday. So
Well, if that's the case, do you have 2 season tickets?
Yeah, like me and my best friend. So
I've
When
been to
he's
one
not
game with him.
going, I go.
when she's not going,
Oh, is that Ren or whatever? Kylo Ren? Is that her name? Trin? So when she doesn't go, do I get to go next one?
I think you might have to fight Paige for it. But
She's sick.
You're like 7th on the list.
Anyways,
there's a
no.
list.
Final thoughts. Chris Guffey and I are buying the lawn pass to Ruoff Home Mortgage Center next year.
Deer Creek.
Clips, Deer Creek, Verizon Wireless.
Of all the
are.
girls versus the cat memes, the Deer Creek versus Clips one is my absolute favorite that I've seen so far this year. By the way, back to Mason's
good.
long
Mason,
and
by the way,
boring story.
the
The longest final thoughts we've ever had on this show.
Well, I have something.
she's an accountant. She's an accountant. So
God, she
That's
sounds
not
exciting.
bad. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. I had something and it was good, and you guys just won't shut the hell up. What was
Andrew
it?
sent you popcorn.
You lost it. Zach, do you have any final thoughts for us tonight?
I'm coming back for it. Hold on. What was it?
Not really. I know he's a big fan of it. You know, Veterans Day is on Monday, so thank you, Chris Guffey, for your service.
Oh man.
But not really. Kind of looking forward to seeing how things turn out for the 2020 and beyond Indy 500. And
You got an
People-
early winner? Hinch? Is it going to be Hinch?
yeah, we even get into that. That's a whole different story. Yeah, that would be great. But if he can, poor guy can find a ride. I almost wore a Hinch shirt just to solidarity for the poor guy. He's on his honeymoon though. He's not doing too bad. But otherwise, just we were talking a bit, and I think in the Patriot, people are showing up to not knowing what elections. Pay attention to what's going on in your hometowns, everybody. It's not a big deal. And
It's not that hard
even,
to show up at
you know,
every city
you know,
council meeting for a year and a half.
No, it's
truly
it's
not.
an hour and a, it's an hour and a half twice a week.
Hour and a half.
If that's what they're stretching this weekend,
Yeah.
they were almost done like what
45 minutes, yeah.
The official meeting was done. And you kind of know what's going on in the town, and then you know when elections are happening, and it's also
and
just
you make the mayor nervous.
yeah, you make a lot of people nervous.
Yeah,
if
you
don't
do.
tell them where you live, and they don't know who's ward and what are your intentions here. It's just interesting to know what's going on.
4 years.
And you get to meet people, and you know Guffey's involved in like the downtown and the Memorial Park and all that other stuff. So you get to kind of figure out what's going on. You get to meet. A lot of people kind of hate their local government because they don't know anybody in their local government. If you meet some of the people that are involved, you figure out there's a lot of good people, like the Aaron Dickens of the world, that are
I had so
working
much.
real hard.
Truly.
Hold on.
If-
He's Aaron Dickin. You can't. Sometimes he's just lazy. He won't go to the stop sign. He puts mountains in Newcastle. It's just ridiculous.
That's mountains.
Mike Burrows just told me the park board meeting was 22 minutes long.
I truly, if you guys want to get involved with your local politics, just spend a day volunteering for a campaign and go shoot the shit with people standing outside the headquarters. I had so much fun talking to candidates, talking to city councilmen, and just literally abusing them for 12 hours. It was the greatest time. It's worth it. You can call them corrupt. They all know it's fun. But you can just give them hell the entire time and actually develop relationships just by spending them.
And
with
almost
them.
all of them can take it.
And they can. Or they'll quit.
Yeah, like most of them aren't like super serious. Like, you know, they have to have a sense of humor, and you know, because there's a lot of BS involved with dealing with people.
Zach, I'm standing there with 3 of the elected city councilmen. Candidates leave. They're walking, or the voters walk out, and I just deadpan look at them and say, "Did you throw the bums out?" and they're all, the candidates or the incumbents are sitting there looking at you, just laughing and smirking. It's just it's the greatest thing ever. Where else can you do that? And all of the elected officials are standing at the polling place enjoying the show. As you just, you know.
Are you saying I should challenge a current member that we talked about earlier in my town next year? Well, next election.
Darren doesn't have to run for re-election. It's implied.
It implies.
But if you want a future political career, we can.
Jason
talk
Marshall,
talk
do you remember him
Dakota.
from our high
yeah,
school
he might
career?
take it.
He ran against him.
Did he? I did not even know that.
for precinct committeeman.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Guffey wasn't joking though. If you just show up to meetings
That's all it takes.
and you don't say anything,
Just sit there.
Just sit there. That's all I do. I don't really talk at meetings. I never officially like stood up and spoke as a citizen. They get real curious about where you live because they want to know whose ward you're in, and then they're like, "So what are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And
You just walk out. And
it
don't
makes
say
them
anything.
really. Yeah, I get up at the end of a meeting once in a while. I'll say something to Guffey, or I'll say I know most of the city councilmen in some form or fashion. I might say hi to them on the way out, but I just walk out when I'm done and just go home.
And they're all just biting at your tail trying to get you.
I mean, I'm like, they'll come up to you at the beginning of the meeting, or
What are you worried about? What do you want to talk about tonight?
Or
What do
in
you
the
care
grocery
about?
store, and they'll be like, "So what are you thinking?" And most of them are real friendly. And some of them, but they do ultimately want to know if you're going to run against them. That's that's what they're scared of. But even then, like, I bump into people, and you get to know the people, and if they trust you, you can ask them like, "What's going on with this?" And
You
they'll
know
tell you
this
what's
store.
going
You
on.
can't just say the grocery store. You got to be specific.
Kroger,
There we go.
best chocolate milk on earth.
Oh,
Dakota, do you have any
yeah.
more final thoughts, or was that it? You good? That was the biggest exhale ever.
No, I think I'm good. I had something else.
I got
but
something
I think
else.
it's
Mason, did you remember?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Part 2.
This last week, I did actually run for something unopposed, but I am now the secretary of my residence hall.
Ooh.
And on
Earhart Hall, the girls' dorm.
First Street Towers, and it's Earhart's not all girls. That's Meredith, where they don't know how to cook.
First Street Tower sounds so bougie.
It
the name
is
of a residence hall.
It's air
free
conditioned.
laundry, live on my own. It's nice.
Most expensive.
It is the most expensive
On the
residence
campus.
hall. But on my
Got that
slide
back
that
boiler
they put
money.
up when I ran, I put pre-pharmacy club member on the social committee last year, BPA currently post-secondary national virtual chapter, former vice president communication. Then I put the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast, intern / co-host. And it was
on
put
your
up.
resume.
It was put up in front of everybody that voted.
That is awesome.
nice.
So,
We appreciate your dedication to the cause. Only
Saying that
3
you're an intern here makes it sound like we have a big production.
well, when our RA put on the board, "What's your favorite podcast?" I put the Boss Hog of Liberty. And I
I
was
remember
like,
that.
yeah, I didn't know.
But
if maybe
it makes it sound like we are like a big thing that
We are a big deal.
Oh, we have an intern.
Here's the thing, Mason. When I'm invited to your wedding and I get to give a speech, whenever you find the right young lady or fellow, whatever, I will refer to you as intern Mason. At the bris of your first son,
You're gonna
I will refer to you as intern Mason.
refer to me as doctor.
At Dr. Intern Mason. No matter what the occasion is, it'll be 25 years
the
from
title
now.
will stick.
At your firstborn son's graduation, and when he wins the Tri-High
Nobel Peace
tennis championship, or when you're sworn in as Southern
President of
District
the United
Commissioner
States.
someday, or state representative, it'll be intern Dr. Mason Rottinghaus, state representative. All of those things, but intern is always going to be there.
It's once he gives you the title. I coached Sean Rowe's son's soccer team. And every time I saw him, I had to refrain from saying, "Oh, there's Liberty defender Sean Rowe." every time I see him, and I don't think he knew who I was at first. And I had to tell him, I was like, every time I see him, I always go, "Look, there's Liberty defender Sean Rowe," and just sitting there on the soccer field. So, yeah, that title's just stuck in my head, and like,
It rolls off the tongue for him.
yeah. Well, and then your wife's the lovely Sarah Potter. Like, I can still have to remember to change the last name. And like, that's just
There's a cast of characters that we've built over the last 137 episodes, and if you're a faithful listener, you've probably made it to this point in the show now. So thank you guys very much. Final thoughts for me, really quickly. I obviously have been a big fan of comedy for a very long time. Season 2 of the Conan O'Brien podcast is out. Listened to a couple episodes today. David Letterman is on there. INDYCAR co-owner with Mike Lanigan and Bobby Rahal. And Dave did tell a little bit of an INDYCAR story. I think he got some of his facts messed up. I
What
think
team
he
is
thinks they own the Takuma Sato team and the Graham Rahal team.
Rahal, Ledman, Lanigan.
RLL. But he did talk about winning the Indy 500 a little bit, and he talked about this German guy who's kind of a paraplegic who got hurt at Pocono. didn't get all the facts straight, but he did talk a little bit on there about the Robert Wickens.
He came from German touring car racing.
Yes.
But he's Canadian.
Yes. So that was on there a little bit, and just a really fun, easy to listen to podcast. Also listened to the John Oliver episode, and just really fun. If you're looking for a fun, easy to listen to podcast, check out that Conan one.
I also need to thank Cade Coger because he let me ride in his combine.
You did.
Oh,
You
yeah.
did some
With my
drone
son,
work. You went
yeah.
over to my father-in-law's place. You didn't post any of those pictures.
Oh, well, I didn't know if you wanted me to post pictures of your in-laws' neighborhood. I'll post them.
Oh, those are safe. Yeah. Go
But
for
yeah,
it.
the next day I was like, I knew Cade was out in the farm or out harvesting, so I was like, can I chase your combine with a drone? So I chased him around a little bit, and then we went back, and he was eating dinner, and so I had my son with me, a 6-year-old. I was like, you want to go over there and look at the combine? I talked him into it, and then I think Cade saw the kid and was like, oh, you want it for a ride? And combines are cool, even if you're a 37-year-old man. It's kind of cool to ride around in a combine. So
You're sweet.
Good Cade serve you dinner.
Happy birthday, by the way, to both the Burcham boys.
yeah,
Just turned 37.
It was cold on my birthday. It was snowing on Halloween. So
You just turned 37?
yeah, not 47. Guffey with no E. You'll earn the E eventually.
Huh. I'm shocked.
He Chris didn't even know that I showed that post to him. My wishing you a happy birthday.
Yeah,
On
yeah.
Facebook. He got a kick out of that.
37,
Well
not
after the fact.
46.
Yeah, Sarah says it's totally fine to dox your parents. With that,
I've done it.
I get to some of you guys are really good at doxing.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't point
Moving-
fingers.
Moving on.
I'm a racist and doc.
We will do our show on Thursday. Dodged a bullet. Almost had to be out of state next week, but same time, same place. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to WeAreLibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeAreLibertarians.com.